What is going on at Tottenham right now? That's what we need to get into. There are clues everywhere. Where are the solutions? I'll give my take on it, but I'm sort of caught in between a few different thoughts here right now. But let's get to the truth of this. That's what this channel's for. Welcome back to More James Allcott with me, More. I'm going to do a video on Arsenal specifically, but this one, hot off the back of the North London derby, we're going to talk about Tottenham and why they are where they are. And I think there are clues absolutely everywhere. I've shown you one here. I think I'll reveal this team in yellow. I think this is a big part of it. But I also think that this is a massive clue right here. That's a huge clue for what Tottenham are right now. Here's the ugliest clue. The Premier League table itself, but in particular one aspect of it, and this feels pretty glaring as well, and we're going to have to compare this with Arsenal, because I think everything that you hate about Arsenal is probably the thing that is maybe holding you back right now. I've also got a bone to pick with Sarr about the second goal, because we can go through the team, and actually there are some really exciting players, and there's one player for Tottenham that I think I think two maybe you found superstars that will blossom into really, really quality players. But as I say, the Premier League doesn't lie right now, and maybe it does. I mean, does it? Let me know. I'm lost here. The fact that West Ham are above you is wild to me. 26 points, 2 points clear. But the thing that's interesting to me, it's just decided to refresh, is that your goal difference. Look at the goal difference between West Ham and Tottenham. I always think goal difference is a really good way of kind of seeing the quality that you possess as a team and how often you can be miles better than the opposition. And the fact that your goal difference is plus 11 and you are 2 points beneath a team with a minus 14 goal difference. Now, West Ham, a bit of an anomaly. I get that. But, those teams above, like that is... You are miles ahead of those teams. Aston Villa have got 11 points more than you, and their goal difference is -1. What is going on here? Let's have a look at this. Let's start with the game, and then we'll come out to those broader thoughts, because I think it's important to start with the game, because one thing that is worth saying is that this is a really, really young team. Really, really young team. And that's highlighted in the two teams. Also, injuries, but injuries for both. Let's remember that. So in terms of the building up of the squad, the players that you then bring in, how can they cope with, being squad players that need to come in and step in and be effective on huge nights like this, like a North London derby? And this is the first clue. We're going to bang on age here. And you can see the difference. 23.7 was the average age of this Tottenham lineup. And that's, with a 32-year-old in that team. But look how young they are. Really, really young. Arsenal side, 26.2. So much experience in that team. And generally, all players, aside from Lewis Skelly, who I thought had a cracking game for them. Again, Tottenham fans, you're not going to want to hear that one. I thought you've got an Arsenal squad there that has been building over a couple of seasons. Now, in terms of success, it's never linear, is it? But with Arsenal, it does feel like there have been those sort of building blocks along the way. And that's by building a kind of sturdy team that is well coached and coached incredibly different to this Tottenham team. In terms of style of play, the two teams work so differently. Arsenal look to absolutely dominate the XG, and if they win the XG battle, they're probably going to win the game. Tottenham, their desire to be as bothered about XG and not give away chances and secure those mini, low percentage chances, which is, set pieces, which again, Arsenal scored from. I did this for Arsenal the other day where I was talking about their season. So this is Tottenham's Premier League sort of match log on FBref. And what you'll see is, in orange, these are the games where they've won the XG battle. Should we change the colour there? Let's just change the colour quickly. Now, when they've not won the XG battle, they've not won a game. So as you can see here, 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 here. But a dominant team will win the XG battle more often than not. And that, in its simplest of terms, in a game of low scoring and lots of luck, is kind of dominating the game, creating lots, however that is, and not conceding much. And Tottenham are 13th in the expected goal difference table in the Premier League right now. So from that point of view, and look, you can pick apart XG as much as you want, Tottenham deserve to be in 13th spot. This is Arsenal's. Now, Arsenal haven't won a game when they've had a lower XG. Sorry, they've still won 2 games when they've had a lower XG. So they've still won 2 games when they didn't deserve to win. But the amount of games is so different. So in terms of where you're trying to get get 90 points, because that's what Tottenham are trying to do, with the tickets being as expensive as they are, the stadium that you've heard the long list time and again. So the feeling of frustration, I think, is understandable. But when we go to that team and we see how young it is, and when we focus in on this game, it's not a perfect storm, but there's a lot of things going against what Ange's principles are all about. Because this team in yellow is the team that played against Arsenal in the first game earlier in the season. Now, I forgot to put Kingsley in, so don't worry about Kingsley on the right here. That's Kingsley, okay? Vicario, Romero, both centre-backs out. Huge part of how you play, as well as just being good players. Bentancur out as well. And actually, he made a decision, I think, after that, to not play Maddison and to not play Johnson, because I think he wanted legs in Sarr and Bergvall. And that's why I think he didn't play those 2 players, to be able to hurt Arsenal in transition, which, to be fair, the goal came from that. But there's a lot of players there that are then missing. And those players are crucial to what Tottenham want to create. And it's one where every team's got to be able to get on with it. But at the same time, every team's you've got to be willing to understand what happens when those injuries occur. And I think at this, I wouldn't go as far as saying embryonic stage, but at this early stage, these 2 in particular, and Kingsley, and again, I get it's Vicario written down, but Kingsley, I haven't made my mind up on him yet. I thought he was very up and down today. I think the second goal he's got to be disappointed with. But let's focus on these 2, because there are, fast forward 2 years' time, and it's something that Postecoglou's spoken about a lot. You've got to let these lads fail and make mistakes. Are there some other players that are squad players or not on the level? I think Jed Spence is someone that we need to talk about here, and I actually think this whole left side, from a defensive point of view, is a massive problem. The amount of times that Arsenal were able to overload that side, and we can show you the average positions in a second, because I think there's something in that as well. And Jed Spence, I did aim to put him not in line with the back line, because time and again, it was like that. When you're looking, and they're defending deep at times, and he was just sort of not really paying attention, not sniffing out the danger. He's so right-footed. I think sometimes he sort of sees this area of the pitch, but he's never really looking at this side of the pitch. And so I think he's struggling in all of this. But so you don't want him there. And Archie Gray, can we talk about Archie Gray? Again, I want to give you a realistic look at this, because there are some positives. Archie Gray is an enormous positive. This is a guy who could be an amazing centre midfielder, but has played the bulk of his young career, at right back, and has since had to play in some incredible games at centre back, and has stuck to task fantastically. He is only going to get better. Sarr is only going to get better. Solanke's not going to get any worse for a long time, and I think with better players around him would be better. Heung-min Son, I worry a little bit, but in a team that's got that little bit more control and quality, I think you could see that he's still got, such finesse in his finishing and can be a cracking player. Dragusin, I think, is hurting from having the other players around him. And Porro, we know with his role of bombing on, there's going to be, when there's goals and the right back's not standing in right back, we're just going to have a go at the right back. But again, that is not how Ange kind of wants to play. Basuma, I do want to touch on the second goal because I think Papa Sarr, what's happening a lot of the time is he's got a lot of ground to cover on this right-hand side. And in terms of getting through this season, when he's going to play, yes, he's got incredible stamina. And I do actually want to touch on the goal here because the second goal, actually the goal you score and the goal that you concede, you see both sides of Sarr. So first of all, this is the goal that you score and this is the corner before it. Sarr has made a massive run here and most players would just get to here, pass the ball and then go, my work's done. We've got guys running into the box. Let's leave it at that. But actually, Sarr had the stamina to drive to get to this sort of golden zone, as they call it, or my manager, Marty Cifuentes, calls it, and then go and get the corner from that. And kind of make Partey suffer a little bit in terms of making him have to work really, really hard. So we know he's got the energy going this way. I thought the analysis was wrong, personally. With this scenario, Basuma loses the ball in this area here. Now, we saw this with Bruno Fernandes a couple of weeks ago. Sarr knows that when Basuma's here, he's got to come back and help. Okay, Bergval's playing in the 10 in this moment. And when you lose the ball, and Basuma deserves some blame for this, and actually, I think Thomas Partey deserves some credit because it's a good bit of defending. But once it breaks, you've got a lot of yards and a lot of time and not a runner near you, Sarr. And this has happened a couple of times now with him. He has to get across once the pass gets made. He has to survey what's going on. He has to know that Porro's always going to be up there. And this area of the pitch, whoever goes into that zone, that's his guy. Saying Dragusin's got to go over there is absolute nonsense to me. And the reason is this. If Dragusin goes, then Sarr has to come back round here anyway. If Sarr goes and Dragusin then goes, you've now got 2 layers of defence. And at the same time, Basuma's back with Odegaard. Dragusin's in his natural position. He's marking him. And we know that Porro's going to be all at sea sometimes. So Sarr, to show that stamina for the first goal, you've got to show the desire and the intensity the other way. And sometimes we don't see that. Now, fatigue makes cowards of us all. So I get it. I understand it. That maybe that's it. Maybe he's not got the stamina that you need. But for him to get dragged, you wonder why he got dragged. I think one thing was a control thing. I think the second thing, he gave Bergval the keys. And this lad is something. Bergval is one hell of a player. So there are positives here. The changes that were made. Bergval stayed on. Sarr came off. Johnson went right. Kulusevski stepped in here. Maddison came in and played over here. And Basuma came out. And Bergval had to deal with all of it. This lad's a superstar. Honestly, he's a superstar. He's a superstar. He's a really good player. He's a superstar. There's some good players in there. So I don't think it's about giving up on it. But that lack of desire to sort of change it up a little bit, be a little bit more careful, and to solve this problem of the XG, that is an ugly truth that is going to follow Tottenham around until they can get to a point where they completely overpower the opposition. And my fear is that even with some of these players coming in, are they going to be so dominant? I appreciate the idea of sort of fake it till you make it, and I want that to work for Tottenham because I love the idea of it working. But in this time of trouble, I think it would be understandable for Tottenham fans to not believe in it right now. So there's that mix of the two, isn't there? Time and time again, there's that mix of the two. And I think the final thing I want to touch on for Tottenham is that sort of working together as a team aspect of all of this. See if we can find it. We'll do it here instead because I think we're not zoomed in right. This Arsenal team, really nice, neat and tight together. Tottenham, and sorry, the better way of showing you is, yes, the initial structure, but in terms of where they're all in these sort of tighter spaces, you know exactly where their positions are on the pitch. Tottenham, it's just sporadic and kind of all over the place. And the distances and the structure of this team is not totally there. Yes, of course, there's some changes that were made here, so that's worth saying. But when you watch the game with your own two bloody eyes, it's just a wee bit disjointed, isn't it, right now? And I think there's this desire to stick with those principles, and that's not going to change. But you're 13th in the league. And if you go out of the Europa League and you go out and you don't win the EFL Cup, what then? And you're 15th, 14th, what then? This is the hardest Premier League I've seen ever. I'm thinking of doing a video on that, by the way, so let me know. Hit the like button if you want me to do a video on why it's the hardest league. But I absolutely believe it is. And I think that's another reason why Tottenham are struggling right now. The injuries in key areas, but it does come back to this. And I know it's boring, but when it comes to winning and losing, you've got to be, I'm not going to say it, but you've got to be more dominant when it comes to XG, because you're having to score 3, 4, 5 to win a game of football. And that is not sustainable if you want to European football and continue to progress. Such a murky one. Please let me know how you feel about this. It's so confusing, but the season it's not hanging by a thread, is it? But like, go out of those two competitions. Well, of course, you've got the FA Cup as well. Tottenham are now a cup team right this second. And can you as a fan allow for it if you don't win a trophy this year? Can you? Let me know.